It being 7 p.m. on December 13th, 2023, we will begin tonight's select board meeting. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none, the next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes. Nope, there's no meeting minutes. Okay, very good. All right, the next item on the agenda is the recognition of service for the superintendent of the Department of Public Works, Chris McGowan. If you'd like to come up to the table. Mr. McGowan has been an employee for the town of Clinton since 2004. Sure you don't want to round out the 20 years? It's an even number. But we asked that Mr. McGowan come back tonight so we could take a moment to express our gratitude for your service. I'd like to express a heartfelt thanks for your outstanding effort and dedication to the town of Clinton. And thank you for the positive impact you've made in the Clinton community over the last 19 years. Anybody else would like to?
If I may.
Absolutely.
I had the pleasure of being on the board when we were told we had to close the landfill again. Yeah. And through Chris's recommendation at that time, it was that we close it ourselves. I mean, it was a big undertaking and a lot of soul searching on behalf of the board at the time. But Chris's expertise really sold it for us, and it was probably the best decision that the town ever made. I mean, we made over $12 million because of that, and he oversaw that whole project from day one. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, you know, I've heard so many comments about how beautiful High Street looks and the town is, you know, so many nice changes. And in part, very much so, it's Chris. And that money that paid for downtown and these sidewalks and everything else, that's improvements to our community are because of that money we made up at that landfill. And had Chris not been here, I don't think that ever would have happened. I mean, we did go out for bid and we had some bids for the job, but certainly not anywhere near what we ultimately made because of Chris overseeing it and the town closing it ourselves. So, I mean, that's just one of the many things that I think Chris has accomplished in the 19 years he's been here. And I really hate to see him go, but I know it's time for you to move on, Chris. You have a grandson now and hopefully many more on the way. So,
I hope.
And a whole new phase of your life. So I wish you all the very best and great health to you and your family and much happiness.
Thank
you for being a part of the town.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, to amplify 100% what Mary said, not only did we make that money, but it would have cost us almost as much. So instead of spending millions, we made millions. I've said before how much we get from the state. Chris said last time, it's only about $340,000 a year. So every year, thanks to the wisdom of that board and Chris's hard work and the whole department, we've been able to put, you know, $1 million or $2 million into this town, tax-free. That's made this place what it is. And so, yeah, I want to thank you. Personally, when I ran in 2017, you were one of the first people who agreed to meet with me and catch me up on things and just let me know what was going on in town. And I remember you said, like, the next 10 years are going to be very important for this town. And I think that's held true. And thankfully, because of your service and leadership, this town's a much better place now than it was when I started. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope to see you around the brewery and, you know, we're going to miss you, and it's big shoes to fill. But again, I think the whole town owes you a debt of gratitude and appreciation. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Chair, I just want, on top of the landfill stuff, which is obvious, my takeaway, Chris, personally, I've never gone to you with a request or help or anything and ever been turned away. Even if you couldn't give me exactly what I wanted, you always would try to work with me to try to like find a solution. I know other people have that same experience. I mean, going back to when I was on the school committee and before I even knew anything, I was trying to get that second long jump pit in there so that we could have the big track meets. And I came down and met with you and like, I'm not from the school committee. I got nothing to do with it. You could have easily just said like, get out of here. I got bigger things to do. You sat down, you worked with me, you worked with us, and I've had multiple experiences like that with you, and it speaks to your character. And I agree with all these guys that the town is going to be it's going to be sorely missed that you're leaving us. But bigger and better things and another phase in your life and everything. But I just wanted to express my thanks for working with you over the few years that I've had the opportunity to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. It's been a short period of time. Everyone said it, but as a resident, a citizen, and from this position too, like I just want to say thank you and wishing you all the best in this next chapter.
Thanks.
Big shoes to fill.
And I'll just thank the board and all the boards. I've probably dealt with 25, 30 different selectmen and really gotten along with every single board we've ever had in this town. And I hope we accomplished a lot. I think we did. I hope people feel that, when they're out on the street. Special thanks to Mike Ward, who's been here, obviously, for the entire time I've been here. I grew up with Michael. We've been friends since we were little kids, and Michael's invaluable to the town. His wealth of knowledge is unsurpassed. I'd love to thank my administrative assistant who, every office has someone who basically is the glue that holds the office together. And Lisa Prophet, I'd be lost without her. She is on top of everything. She's fair to a fault with everybody. Which is incredibly important in a town. You're always here, and it's who you know. And our office, it's not run that way. And I don't think the town hall is run that way. We try to help everybody equally, and give a fair shake to everybody. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Sheila, who's here. Doesn't want to be in the spotlight ever, but she's been, with me 100% of the way, even making the transition from Bates. I worked at Bates for years to come to this job. She's fully supportive in what I'm doing right now. And, between her and my family, I got it pretty good. So with that, I thank you guys very much, and appreciated working with you guys for, some of you for a few years, some of you many, many more, and we'll be around anyway, so I'm not disappearing.
You sleep through plow season this year.
So before you leave,
During the break, Mr. Chair, if I just wanted to add to, I'll see Chris, before he moves on, but I just wanted to publicly thank him, to take a moment to say thank you, Chris, both professionally, personally. Chris is a intelligent person with breadth of knowledge who ran a complex department all these years. And it's somebody that I can count on day in, day out to get the job done, to be there when you needed them, and to go over and above to do things that really, he didn't always have to do to help this town and to help our organization. So you will be extremely missed, and I thank you for everything that you've all done from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
thank you. So as a gesture of gratitude for your service, we have a plaque for you. It reads, Christopher J. McGowan, in appreciation for your many years of dedicated public service, assisting the citizens of the town of Clinton, Massachusetts, Superintendent, Department of Public Works, 2004 to 2023.
Thanks, Chris.
Here you go, Chris. Here's the
Put that in. A second.
Thank you. Have a great night.
I think
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Phil Duffy, Director of Community and Economic Development.
Good evening, members of the board.
well,
Good evening.
It's too bad we couldn't convince him to round up to 20. I'm here for you this evening on two matters. One is very small and one is very large, at least in terms of money. To deal with the small one first, the town applied, I believe in October, to a public art program called Making It Public in Massachusetts, funded by the New England Foundation for the Arts. Lee in the office actually wrote the application. It was her first application, and we were awarded a $15,000 grant to sponsor a call for artists. There is a training regimen that we have to go through under the aegis of the New England Foundation for the Arts to ensure that that the call for artists is inclusive, accounts for all kinds of community insights, does adequate community outreach, and I presume also does basic training in procurement, because I think that they award these to municipalities and nonprofits, and not everybody knows how to do, procurement by the rules. So I think in the memo, I briefly outlined the timeline. It looks like the training happens in the spring. There's a process for developing a rubric, looking at their paperwork. I assume that gap is so that there's outreach done in the community. Call for artists is issued by August, and a selection is made by January. Those may be drop dead deadlines, and it may be faster than that, but that's what's outlined in their guidelines. It would, if we accept the award, it would obligate Lee and I to attend 6 90-minute Zoom training sessions and then put together this rubric. What that public art will be, I don't know. That's, I think, for the community to decide. Temporary public art is most commonly construed as things like murals, but it can be banners, 3D sculptures, performances, festivals. It could be a wide range of things. And so we'll see at the end of this process what the community's desire is. So I'm before you evening on that matter, asking for a motion to authorize the chair to enter into the agreement with New England Foundation for Arts for this program.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, great. Yeah, well,
Very good.
and congratulations to Lee. It was very good. Very proud of her that she was able to go out and get this. So good for her. Second one has to do. Oh, great.
All in favor? Aye. I like this pace though. All right.
Okay. Second matter is revisiting a project that we applied for grant funding last year and were not successful. This was the downtown stormwater improvements project. You may recall we talked about this last year. We applied to MEMA and FEMA. We thought we had a good application going in. We were the highest scoring application that was not awarded. So we didn't get a grant. So we're going back this year. We've taken in the comments of the reviewers and are incorporating that input into a revised application. The chief difference between this year and last year has to do with the non-federal share. Last year was a one-time only 90% federal share, which would have meant a community contribution of about $1.1 million that came to at that time. If we are successful in achieving a grant this year and the costs are the same, it'll be about a $3.3 million town share. We don't have to have those funds committed at the time of application, which is in January. But if we receive an award, in order to accept it, we will have to find a non-federal share. And that could be from any of a range of funding sources, all of which would require the approval of town meeting, I assume, whether it be from the transfer from the stabilization fund or a borrowing article or some other revenue source that is non-federal, perhaps an MVP grant. Those are, I think, in March of 2024. But I'm not sure if that meets the definition of non-federal. That's something we need to check out.
Can I just
Sure.
what was the amount you said, Phil? I'm not sure if I heard.
Right now, the working project budget for the 4 components of work, which I'd be happy to describe, and I kind of describe to you in a map that's included in the packet.
I didn't hear the amount that you said. That's
Oh, I'm sorry. The project amount is $12.9 million.
12.9 million.
Yes. About 40% of that is in one component of the work, which would to redirect stormwater that falls on Birded Hill, and currently now with our existing stormwater system all runs west to Canopane Brook, would redirect it down Grove Street and Chestnut Street to the Nashua River. So that would take off some of the headwater pressures on the existing system that have contributed to failure twice in the last 12 years, 13 years at this point. So the town share of that would be 3.3 million. So it's a big dollar item. We've done the benefit cost analyses. It passes in that respect. You can't read the cost benefit analysis in a straight way because they kind of extrapolate costs. You know, you have a dollar cost, but then there's kind of a expected cost. I think it's likely that the 2 events that have happened in 2010 and 2017, total damages far exceeded $3.3 million. But that doesn't mean that we have $3.3 million we can just, of public funds that we can just hand over. So I'm bringing that to you tonight because in order to complete the application, I would need to bring in an engineering company to help us prepare the technical side of the application. And so I have a proposal for that for not to exceed $20,000. But I didn't want to come in asking you for that money without apprising you of the fact that the local contribution has changed from last year to this year. And that's the magnitude of contribution we'd be talking about.
One more question.
Sure.
What was last year's contribution?
1.1.
1.1, so it's gone from 1.1 to 3.3.
Yeah.
Well, did the reimbursement went down or?
Yeah. Quite frankly, with the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, last year was a one-off. It's always the non-federal, the federal share has always been 75%. It was a one-time.
That's a huge jump.
It is. Which makes it all the more disappointing that we didn't get it last year because last year was the only year since these programs have been enacted that it was a 90% match.
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification. I just saw an email this afternoon from about the MVP grants that there's an expression of interest due Friday. Is that related to like if we wanted to use that for paying for it or?
Quite frankly, I'm gonna email tomorrow. I'm actually meeting with MEMA on Friday morning. They're not the people who do the MVP, but I may seek that clarification. An expression of interest is not required in order to submit an application.
Great.
Any other questions? There being none, what is the pleasure of the board?
Well, I do have another question.
Sure.
So if we would approve the 20,000 for the study,
Yep.
that doesn't actually make a commitment for the town. It's
No.
just-
No, it allows us to put in a competitive application. You know, we may not get it this year either. I mean, these are federally competitive programs. But the application would include a letter of commitment or a letter of support that indicates the town's support for the application. But it doesn't necessarily, the funds themselves don't need to be committed at the time of application.
Basically.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Philip, can you briefly talk us through, like, what would be the ramifications of not addressing this issue? Like, what would be some of the long-term issues that we would have to deal with if we don't get this grant and we don't?
Well, it's exposure to hazard.
Okay.
And among the properties that are exposed is that of our largest employer. But also, you know, if you recall the 2010 incident, Buck Furniture, Firebreakers, there was water coming out the cellar windows, 3 feet above grade. Properties on Nelson Street were damaged. If you recall, it was only the sandbags that kept the water from running over the floor of the elementary school cafeteria.
Right.
And there's also interruption of circulation on Main Street, which, kind of, our fire department, the fire trucks have big wheels, but the fire station's right down there as well. It's exposure. It's exposure to hazard. So it's hard to kind of give you a dollar number per se.
No, not a dollar, but yeah, just for more so for like the people kind of watching or reading about this in the paper, just to kind of understand like this is something that has to be addressed. And
we have an inherited drainage system for that brook, which for 0.6 of miles runs in culverts that were constructed in phases, beginning about 1850 and up to about 1966 when the culvert underneath the Ash Street playgrounds was built. It works every day, but when it doesn't work, it causes damage. Again, we've had 2 major episodes in the last 13 years. If erratic weather events are going to become more frequent, then I think our exposure to hazard is elevated as well. What this work proposes to do is, and I describe it in the memo, is to kind of divert some of the water that feeds into that culvert system by taking it out of the Counterpane Brook Basin and moving over to the Nashua River Basin. That's by far the most expensive component of the project. The estimate to do that is $5.2 million, 5.3, to increase underground storage so that waters can flow waters aren't all pushed into the culvert at the same time. So there's some work to do that's proposed to do behind J-Bill, where the existing culvert is most constricted. Effectively, what happens now is all the water that falls onto Burnett Hill eventually makes its way, not all of it, everything that falls on the eastern or southern slopes of Burnett Hill goes underneath J-Bill or into their property. Everything that falls like from Main Street up flows down and then into the pond or the brook. It gets collected on Main Street and dumped into the culvert later. So the idea would be to reduce some of the water that's directed towards that property. So increase the storage in that area so that the rate of recharge into the main culvert there's a buffer there. And then to effectively reroute stormwater flows and stream flows around the kind of the traffic jam on Main Street where all the drainage for Cedar Hill and downtown and Bird Hill all come together in that existing culvert. So there's a lot of inputs that happen in a short gap. There's also potentially a constriction that in there that was part of the reconstruction in 2010 that creates kind of a siphon, which means that water backs up into those capillary feeders into the culvert. So the idea is to take the water that comes down from like the St. John's Rectory area over to Grove Street, basically over to Walnut Street, and instead of having it go straight down Mechanic Street, Union Street, and dump in right by the Dunkin' Donuts, to move it down School Street and dump it in by the fire station where the culvert is modern and there's much more capacity. Okay. And similarly, behind Nowco, the buildings that are now going to be turned into apartments eventually, to create another smaller culvert that will take some of that water that now runs underneath the mills and to Main Street, right where the collapse was a few years ago, and to take it out and dump it closer to the fire station. So it's kind of move water away from that traffic jam, because if there's a siphon there, what happens is the water that's in those stormwater basins that comes in, it can't get in there, that there's just too much water flowing this way. Then it backs up and we get things like the flooding that we got at J-Bill in 2017. Probably like the flooding, if people remember when tailgaters, when it was still talk of the town, do you remember that flood? That was probably 2005, 2004, a long time ago. Yeah. That's where that happens. So if we get an event like, say, what happened in Leominster
That's what I was
3 months ago, the event that caused the flooding in 2017 was 5 inches of rain in about an hour. Leominster had about 12 inches of rain. So you can imagine I don't know that this is I'm sure there's a weather event that can overwhelm any design, but we have indication of the limitation of the existing system in the last 13 years. So, it hurts to spend that kind of money underground. But if we are preparing for a future that includes more unpredictable weather, I think there's an argument to be made for it.
Yeah.
And that argument would have to be brought to the town meeting.
I worked at Nitro when, I mean, that.
2017?
I didn't, I left at like halfway through 2017, but I was there for a couple of the flooding, like, instances there. And it's not, not fun, not cool. Like it's, I mean, it's exactly what you expect. I mean, you have expensive machinery and equipment and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're putting sandbags up and there's like, 3-4 inches of water. It's just a disaster. So, so this is, short answer is this is important. And the fact that it's happened a couple times and the fact, in the last 13 years and the fact that, like you pointed out, we just missed by a couple towns over having a surge that probably would have exacerbated this problem again. I mean, I'll make the motion unless anybody else has any other questions.
I can do new discussions.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that to authorize the town to enter into grant prep services agreement with Haley Ward for the amount not to exceed $20,000, funds to be derived from the Community Development Fund.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair, just like Ed and Philip said, we're facing a potential disaster here. We've got 175-year-old water infrastructure and increasing weather events that, 100-year storms aren't 100 years anymore. And, Leominster is applying for federal disaster aid, but they also have a federal disaster they're trying to clean up. Yeah. So, we've seen pre-facilities department what happens when we defer maintenance, and that's on relatively small things like roofs and HVAC. If we have to replace, if we have to recover from an event like Leominster did, it's going to be catastrophic. So, as much as this hurts, I'd at least like to explore, the chance of getting it 75% matched, because the alternative to me is dire.
Any other questions or discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And your next meeting is the first week of January?
First, the third, is it?
Third? Okay. I'll probably be coming to you at that time. At that point, we'll have the budget nailed down and asking for a letter from the chair to include in the application. Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Max.
Very good. Next item on the agenda, all covered technology assessment report discussion. Welcome, if you'd like to come to the table. When you sit down at the table, if you could introduce yourself. Microphones are not overly sensitive, so in order for you to be heard at home, you have to be in close proximity.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for having us again, guys. I appreciate it. My name's Samantha Fastori. I'm with All Covered, Tom Reynolds' IT Operations Division. This is Ryan Ranzella, Director. You can introduce yourself there.
Hi guys, I see you again. I'm Ryan Renzel. I'm the director of the government team for New England. So very nice to meet you. See you again.
So most of you guys were here last time we presented our in-depth detailed report. Today we're just going to go through a high-level summary of what we went through a few weeks ago. As you know, just to take it back, we went through an in-depth assessment process, dove into the technology environment here within Clinton, each and every division in site, and put together some recommendations. And IT is a a foundation for a municipal town, it's crucial to business operations, and having a solid foundation is going to streamline things like communications, business operations, security, data protection, and really help contribute to the town's path for innovation and growth. So what we did here today is just kind of high level overview of what we're going to put forth as a recommendation. So phase one, as this foundation, the goal is to really improve cybersecurity, increase the user experience, disaster recovery plan. So migrate you from what is downstairs here today, outdated infrastructure, 2008 servers, 2012 servers, migrate that to the cloud, which is going to increase the efficiency of your business operations. Also, migrate your users from kind of a disjointed email platforms to Microsoft 365, which dovetails right from Azure. Implement standardized desktops, workstations for your end users. Really standardize your environment from the ground up. Do you have anything else to add on the
No. Yeah, everything Sammy said. If anyone has any questions, feel free to stop us. I know last time was a very technical conversation. So we tried to more, simplify it and go more high level. So if anyone has any questions, you feel free to stop us. But like Sammy said, the first one is really foundational. And this is, like I mentioned last time, industry standard, or for your specific industries, government and towns. This is a pretty standard, setup of what we do. This is not anything beyond that. It's just getting you guys off of your on-premise infrastructure and putting it into the cloud. So you don't have to worry about buying new servers. All of your servers downstairs are end of life, no longer supported by Microsoft, which means they no longer release patches for it. So it's a huge vulnerability. Get you on Microsoft 365 for email, modern email system. You can see it on your phone, basic stuff, but not the current setup for some instances, and then standardize on whether it's laptops or desktops, standard setup for workstations, and then getting on a budget cycle. So you're refreshing and not having 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old workstations, around the town, which, over time costs you more money, actually, believe it or not. So that's sort of the foundation that you need to get to before you're even able to be manageable by anybody, in a managed environment. So that's sort of step one. If there's any questions on that.
Very good.
I did have one question, Mr. Chair. So is it, this IT would be for all municipal groups with the exception of the schools, I'm assuming, right? Is there, I'm assuming you've done this with other municipalities in the past. Is there ever, or has there ever been a desire to integrate schools and municipal IT into one thing? Have you ever done it that way, or in your experience, is it usually kind of two separate silos?
In my experience, most of them are separate, and it's the long-term goal to integrate. But schools and municipalities, the town, operate different. Their business operations are different. Google, schools utilize the Google Workspace, and a lot of schools even have Google implemented for learning, classroom experiences, Google for the students, and you utilize Microsoft 365 for their business operations.
Okay.
So in my experience, a lot of them are separate, and maybe there are ways that they connect down the line.
Sure.
Right now, there really wouldn't be a way to connect the town as it is right now and the schools. An end goal, possibly. It would probably require a few additional IT staff to be in-house.
Right.
But that also comes with soft and hard costs for employing additional IT professionals. So it's really a case-by-case basis. And I mean, it's part of our roadmap for multiple towns. Ryan also actually recommended for Westboro hiring additional IT staff to help them. I mean, there are different ways that they could integrate down the line.
Right.
Right now, we're kind of we are trying to get you
Yeah.
guys up to
I get it.
a level to make that a possibility in the future.
Okay, fair enough. Yep, that's phase 3, maybe. No, thank you.
Phase 4.
Phase 4?
It's technology isn't set it and forget it. It's a moving target.
Sure.
It's a work in progress constantly. Regardless of who have the best infrastructure in place, there are always areas for improvement. And
Sure.
what we aim to do is help bring those to your attention and help optimize as the relationship grows, as you become more technology versed as a town.
Okay, thank you.
We'll take phase 2.
Sure. So that's phase 1, sort of getting to a very manageable, foundational position. And just to be clear, when we say all town employees, like for email and the move to Azure or the cloud, and for cloud, just for everyone's on the same page, obviously a cloud is just, someone else's infrastructure, servers that you guys have downstairs are just in someone else's environment. So that's probably, basic for all you guys, but we're moving stuff out of the environment into the cloud, and we would be using Azure's, Microsoft's cloud, which is Azure. That's the name of it. There's a couple options, AWS, Azure, Google. Azure is pretty much the standard for government entities, especially since you're going to Microsoft 365. So all of your town users would get Microsoft emails. In terms of operations, police and fire are sort of separate from the operation space because they have a setup right now that overall is working well for them. So we're not trying to add additional costs and cause additional disruption. We're just trying to focus on the things that really need the focus right now, which is town, senior center, library, those sort of departments right now in terms of the operational thing. But that is phase 1, which is your foundation. Once that is done, you guys will be in a much better position, in a position to be managed by somebody, and all the benefits of a modern email system, all that great stuff, right? Normal day-to-day operations. So in phase 2, we have to focus on, okay, now we have a foundation for the town, right? We're in a good position overall. Now, how do we maintain that position and move forward, right? So in this phase, we're going to focus on IT support. So for the town hall, for senior center, library, we're going to make a migration and support, and we're going to focus on more on some on-site support, because for towns are sort of different animal. In some organizations, doctor's offices, law offices, most stuff can be handled remotely, and most stuff, can be handled remotely for towns as well. But towns operate at a different speed than most organizations, and having someone on site, IT, that's not full-time, much less expensive than full-time, but someone on site, a familiar face that can answer questions and fix things for people, that's a big component of what we're recommending for you guys. And also a focus on strategic planning. So now that you guys have this foundation and you guys have invested in your foundation, you have a firm footing, how do we continue to build on that foundation over time? And how do we provide the town with strategic plans and budgets for not just this year, but into the future? So now we know what our costs need to be for multiple years out. The other option is to sort of do piecemeal and do it how you've been doing it in the past. And at the time, it is less expensive, certainly, but over time, it costs you more money when you piecemeal things. So having a budget and a plan going forward, we're going to move you off your current phone system, which we call a POT system, which is plain old telephone line. So it's copper. Most copper lines are no longer supported by the phone company. So they're either jacking up the price, is what they're doing on those copper lines, or they're just shutting them off altogether. So we're going to move you off of your copper phone system and get you on a VoIP phone system, which is cheaper, believe it or not. And it's going to give a lot of cool things like forwarding and voicemail and new phone sets, and on your phone, on your cell phone if you wanted to. Some town workers don't like to use their cell phone, but you can have that experience on a modern phone system. Network equipment, you have a lot of aging equipment in terms of switching and firewalls at all of your locations. And with the idea of getting you off of servers and having to buy hardware that sits in your environment, and you guys are trying to go to cloud for Munis and Vadar and I believe the other one was OpenGov. All those things, in order to get to those softwares that are hosted in the cloud by that particular company, you need good internet connectivity on site, and firewalls and protections and security. And that's also another reason why we're going with the Microsoft Cloud, Azure, and M365, because it makes signing in to those things very easy. We have single passwords for everywhere and single sign-on, modern. And then once we've done all that, we are going to be able to implement some pretty basic security and compliance things, especially things that Maya requires, which Maya does cybersecurity for like 99% of towns in Massachusetts. And in order to be covered by their cyber insurance plans, you have to have some basic things in place. like multi-factor authentication, endpoint detection response, security awareness training, which, Michael's already taken advantage of. The state provides a service for that. So he's leveraged some grants for that, and vulnerability scanning. So things that are going to get you in a position to be compliant with cybersecurity requirements and on a really steady baseline. So you guys have made some steps, but this will get you to a place that is manageable and, in a good foundational place going forward. So that's overall the plan for phase 2. This is really broken into 2 phases. And on the 3rd page there, it's a summary. The summary sort of has an estimated timeline of really, this might be sort of ambitious, but ideally we'd like this stuff would be phase 1 and then immediately follow after that would be phase 2. So it's more or less a larger product that should take 6-7 months really of work to be ready by, July 1. But that would be the plan.
And really the value that we provide as a strategic partner, like we are not a vendor. We immerse ourselves in what you guys do day to day. We want to dive in to your business operations and align ourselves to help you reach your goals. We're going to be here at these meetings. We meet with Michael weekly, probably twice or 3 times a week sometimes already to even get to this point of the assessment. We've been on site multiple times, but we're fully entrenched in what you guys do. You are extremely important to us as a town. And, we would take a strategic approach. It's not, like I said, technology is not a set it and forget it. We're here to help build that strategy, not just for right now, but continuously. And through our IT management, that's when we shine. It's the strategic roadmap. We have municipalities across the country, but also right here in New England, in your backyard, that we're working with. So we have our engineers, our team understands what other towns are doing and can make recommendations based on, hey, this is what these people are doing. This is here, and these are the options. This is what they like. This is what they don't. But that's the breadth of knowledge that you get with the provider like Continental Doll covered.
I'll also add a quick note. We have met with Michael a lot over the past months. We probably would have met with him more if you had the Microsoft 365 and a real, calendar system, because I know you guys are doing internal calendar, and oftentimes we'll send him an invite, but he doesn't get it unless it gets into his internal system. So that would be nice if we can get that calendar.
Yep.
What do you guys, do you have any questions? I know we threw a lot at you again.
No questions for me.
Just, Mr. Chair, just to add on, I appreciate support the board has given to technology. That's several years we've been kind of looking at things of ways to bring the network up to speed. And by this, with the ARPA funds, this could have a huge transformational effect by getting us where we need to be, and then a platform that we can start adding all the software on. So, we're back online with getting Munis implemented, and we'll be announcing, later in the meeting, a grant for e-permitting and licensing on board. The assessors just went to a cloud product, and we're looking at a payroll HR cloud system as well too. So by having all of this support behind it, we can then now start adding some of these software packages that are starting to become standard in the industry. I had a citizen come to me yesterday indicating that is the town looking at doing e-permitting, because they were getting a roof on their house. Their contractor was from Rhode Island, and they had to make 2 trips from Rhode Island up to get their permit, where most towns are doing this online. So with this grant that we'll be talking about further in the meeting, that will allow us to get there. So the state has been investing heavily on it, and we've been fortunate to take advantage of those grants. This study was done with the grant. This implementation would be ARPA from federal money. The e-permitting would be a state grant as well too, that we just got awarded. So there's money out there now to get us up to the rest of the world. So I thank the board for that support.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is just another deferred maintenance thing that we've been kicking this can. It's an easy thing because we've got computers at work. Why don't we just keep leaning on these? And we're fortunate to have this somewhat found money to catch us up to where we really should have been a long time ago. So
it's great. And we had a website update this past year. And then our email is huge right now. It's cheap. Our whole email system costs $1,000 a year. But we have very few features and very little storage. So it's not working. So for $1,000, it's not a lot of money, but we're not getting the value out of it either. So by going to Microsoft 365, it's what's the standard in the industry, and it gives us so much add-ons that we can use beyond just sending an email as well too, with shared files and messaging and communication. So hopefully it's going to have a huge effect on the organization. So
I think with the I working at for the public schools, we use Google, and it's amazing how it's transformed the workplace. Where when I first started working for the public schools, very little technology available, and now to have the ability to work on a live document together, and when you think about like, oh, I forgot it at work, and then just open up your computer and everything transfers over, and the efficiency that comes from it is immeasurable, right? So I think it's phenomenal. I'm super excited for it. We've talked about how many people the volume of transactions that take place when it comes to paying taxes in town, and then for the possibility of now the dog license renewal notice that I just got. There's no doubt that I'll be paying a late fee because
I paid a late fee last year.
just to be able to
Because same route, couldn't do it online.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Everything's online. If it's online, I can do it. So this is phenomenal. I thought this was so thorough, and I appreciate everything. I'm looking forward to later tonight discussing this, and thank you.
And just something simple. I know you were joking about it, but the Microsoft being able to schedule meetings through, I know you were half joking, but I mean, I use Outlook at work, and if I didn't have that feature, I'd be blind. I'd be blind.
Yeah.
It's I just take it for granted, because you can go in there and then you could see how different people's times are occupied for certain days, and then you can when you select that meeting that people should be available. If I didn't have that, it'd just be madness. I don't know how people worked before they had these tools, and it's just going to be another tool in the arsenal to help us just be a little bit more efficient and be a little bit more customer friendly and be a little bit more organized. And I know everyone's working towards that. And I think this is just a sign of the kind of the fruits of that labor. So great job to everyone kind of pulling this together.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because I think it's hard to measure, but there's a cost here, but there's also a cost to inefficiency too. And it was a funny example, but today I got a meeting invitation from our assistant town administrator, and someone responded to the email saying, I don't know where it went when I accepted it, but I'm going, so then there's more emails coming in that say we're coming, it's just, and also too, a cost to our citizens too, who may have to pay for their contractor to come up from Rhode Island sometimes. So it's hard to measure, but there is a cost to inefficiency, and that's why I'm excited to bring this all kind of up to speed and make things a little bit smoother and easier for the people who use it every day, but also kind of coming in and out of the system as well. So should be good.
Good.
All right.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you very much. So I don't know.
do we have to review the?
So do we want to move out of order?
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we move out of order and move item number 6 up to my Roman numeral. Item number.
No, you're right. 6. Yeah.
7 here.
Oh, yeah.
7. I know.
Right here.
Okay, right here, it's the 7.
I know.
You're looking at those are the notes. look at the agenda list. 6.
What are we skipping?
Come on, Caesar, let's go.
Second, anyway, so then go ahead.
This has minutes.
Everyone understands the motion. We're out of order up to now.
Second. Oh, sorry, Mayor, second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so right now we are discussing the American Rescue Plan Act recommendations for technology improvements. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we, I think we had 220. Well, anyways, that we use the ARPA money to commence with our new plan for bringing our town hall up to date in computers.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just to beat the horse a little more, I was going to space it out so it wasn't so bad. But like Michael said, it's a standard we're not meeting. This isn't like bells and whistles. This is like a standard that we have been below. So our town employees deserve this. The taxpayers deserve this. And thanks to the federal government helping us out with this, I'm glad that we can catch up here and give it the attention it deserves going forward.
You know, and to Sean's point, I think just for an analogy, for people at home that maybe are not completely up on technology, when you talk about servers being 2008, 2012 end of life, it would be like having a cell phone that is 11 years old and still expecting it to function as it did at that time when it was current. At this point, cell phones, it seems within 2 years, they're out of date, right? You know, and so I think even Apple defines them as antiques within like 3 years or wherever. It's
Really?
crazy when you go to repair. But anyhow, I think to that point, it's the security aspect is the biggest thing that I look at, and I think even when talking about the servers in the basement, where if something was ever to happen to them, that information is gone forever.
Yeah.
So thank you. Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes.
Looking forward to embarking on this journey.
And thank you to the board. This is something I'm extremely excited about. You know, I always tell, two things that I always support is technology updates and professional development. So now that we can make this reality, I'm super excited to get started. So thank you very much for that support.
Very good. Now we can get rid
can
of
schedule
Windows
professional
7 computer.
Windows 360 or Microsoft.
Very good.
That's your own.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great job.
Ready.
Moving back to Roman numeral 5.
Minutes were included in this one, Mr. Chair. That's where I was missing.
All right.
So actually, he would.
I was reading 7 too. What the heck?
I had to go back and count them individually.
All right.
All right, 2024 annual license renewals. Can we go through and approve them by grouping? And then if there's any that,
Anyone has a question on? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, is anyone on the naughty list this year, Michael, as far as not up to code or taxes or things like that?
No, I think the building inspector and fire chief has been through all of the liquor establishments, and they are okay. They had given us copies of the inspection sign-offs. So there are a couple that owe them the inspection fee, so we won't give the license till they pay the permitting department the fee. But other than that, I think they're all set to go. The only thing I'll note on the liquor licenses is the ones I just highlighted in red, just for the FYI for the board. There are some establishments that since COVID that didn't kind of get back on track again. There's some of these on the list that are in process of selling or transferring or, trying to do something with the business. There are others that are looking and are having some challenges trying to find a new entity. So maybe, we want to renew them, keep them, don't take their asset, but, to renew them, but maybe in the new year, try to look at plan as to what they're looking to do with these licenses to try to get them back active and on the rolls again. So,
What do we,
thank you.
so how many of these are, I'm just trying to count here, 1, 2, that is.
10 in red.
10 in red, but I
Right.
see some are, I guess still. No?
Yeah, there's some that are in process.
Yeah, no, those are all, right. So that they're out there. And if that's an issue for us, right. I mean, so what leverage do we have? I mean, I know in places like Boston, you can sell these things. Is that how it works here?
Right. Yeah. What it would be is the board would then call the establishments in for a hearing and put them on notice to give them time. Even the ABCC would recommend, require that you at least give them an opportunity to come up with a plan, whether it's 6 months, 9 months, whatever, and then you would have them back in after that time frame, revisit what they've done during that period, and if you feel satisfied that they're moving forward, you can extend that. If you feel that there's no hope of this license getting back on the rolls, you can then vote to take that back. And then it becomes an asset back to the town, and then the town can give it to a business that's coming to town looking to open up. So then that way it won't cost them to get the license. It would just be the annual fee that they would pay to get it from the town. Whereas some of these that are already in the community, they transfer to sell the business for a fee, So some of them, like I said, there's some here that are already in process. So, in the next few months, several of these will be off the list, but there are some that have been there for a long term. So I think we really do need to ask them, what's their future plan? Do they have any hope or any desire to try to sell the business? And if not, then the town could take it back, because it's always easier for the town to give it out than trying to say, oh, which business has one, or who should I talk to, or who's the contact? Or it's easier for us to issue them if we have them. So that's something we can talk about in 2024.
For the process, so when the town grants a license to a business, is that the equivalent of selling a product to that business, or because it seems odd to me, and it always has, that the town has a license that when it's issued to a business, then it becomes the business
Asset.
has the ability, the business's asset to then be able to sell as they see fit, where it's still tied to the town. I mean, that's
right. It's still tied to the town. It's an asset of the business at that time, but eventually it's really falls under the umbrella of the town, and the quota of the town. However, in the statute, it does allow them to transfer, and you can't per se sell a license, a piece of paper. What you're selling is that business. So you're buying that business that had the license. Part of that business, the license comes with it technically. So, but if they do have the ability to do that, even the ABCC wouldn't take that back from a business unless, it was an egregious reason, or it's years and years of not doing anything with it, because they don't, you're not looking to harm a business and the investment that they put into that business. So you give them the opportunity to come up with a plan to try to transfer it to somebody else. And if not, and there's no desire to do that or no movement, then you'd have the ability to take it back.
The current system has been in place like that for, I think, forever. I mean, we all know in the city of Boston, there's been liquor licenses sold for millions of dollars.
Exactly.
So it's, when you say you're buying the business, but you're buying the liquor license too. So I mean, it's
even next door in Berlin, right? Berlin there was a liquor store, I think, right, that sold, and then over towards the malls, and it was.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
But some of these businesses are, yeah, I mean, looking at some, like the buildings are no longer there, the businesses are no longer there, like for years. So
Right.
it would be good to kind of maybe touch base and see what their
And
intent.
that one is in process of being transferred. So,
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
so that one is, but there are others that, there's others that don't have control of the property.
If a business does, if their business gets sold and that liquor license transfers to a new entity, don't they have to come before the select board?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So we still have some,
Yep,
like,
yep,
yeah.
yep. So the board still has the say as to
Yeah.
what happens with it. Yep. Yep.
All right, very good. So, first item up, liquor license for 2024.
Also move.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next item, common victualler license.
Also move.
Second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item, class 2 motor vehicle dealer licenses.
Also move.
Second.
Yeah, any,
And just under discussion, I know the board had asked in the previous meeting to see where we are, and this is what Joyce had put together for the current list. So this would be where they're issued, what business, the address they're issued to, and how many cars per lot are currently on those.
oh, it's class 2, yeah. Okay, good. Oh, yeah. That was one.
What is the number, Mike? How many are there? I mean, I could count down, but do you know offhand?
Oh, for the total? Yeah, I don't. I can count them up quickly. Yeah.
18, 24, 26, 28. Looks like 30.
Can I?
Oh, we're talking about how many vehicles? Oh, I thought you were talking about.
I mean, I was basically talking about,
Oh.
I mean, there was a motion on the floor, right? Was there a second?
Yeah, there was a second.
Okay.
Yep.
Just in discussion, I know that, 30 seems to, we're a small town, and I know that, we're getting a lot of requests, but I know at one time, we had over 50 second class 2 car licenses in this town. They were everywhere. And we're trying to enhance this town, to beautify it to somewhat. And then you start saying, 30, I don't even know how many. I know at one time Clinton had more class 2 licenses than the city of Fitchburg and Leominster. It can get kind of out of hand. You don't realize it when people keep coming in and saying, I want 20 cars, I want 30 cars. But all I'm saying is that, 30s, I think some are, people just holding a private license, but I think it can get out of hand. That's all I'm saying.
Right, exactly. No, it had gone down quite a bit. You're right. To select moments stick out that we did have over 50. They were like every corner we had them, and then it had come down into the 20s, and now it's a little bit back up, to the upper 20s at 30. I think it's 28 or 30 that we have now. So,
Well, one of the things, like the last gentleman, he was from Auburn. They're not Clinton people. They're out-of-towners coming in. And, I know it's the open environment of, people doing business, but all I'm just saying is, from my own perspective, I think you have to keep a watch on the numbers that you're giving out, because they can multiply pretty quickly.
Mr. Chair. So how do we codify something like that? Can we just flip a switch and say, we did one yesterday, we're not doing one tomorrow? Like, just as far as precedents and like, do we have that authority? The town meeting, like the planning board, like who gets to decide?
as to the
30 is
number,
enough. Yeah,
I think it's up to.
I don't disagree, but like, how can we say, how do we shut this off without someone saying, well, I have a right to do whatever I want with my.
Yeah, I think it's up to the select board. It's a license is a right to be given out. So if you feel that it's not a good location, or that that there's oversaturated in town right now, that, as long as it's just not an arbitrary reason that you're not doing it just because you don't like the people that are in front of you. But if it's a policy that you're setting to say, hey, we feel that area, or, there's too many in town, or that section of town, we feel there's, it's not needed, or we don't like that property or that lot, it's up to the board. Yeah, discretion is up to the select board.
I mean, no, that's what we did.
Was that something we wanted, like, say,
Set numbers.
just to prevent people from coming in?
Yeah.
Well, we just said, there was a lot of discussion at the time. I do specifically think, we were for a 5-person board. We put a lot of talk into it, and when, we realized, the building inspector at the time had done a lot of research. That's why we knew our numbers were incredibly high. And we said, enough is enough. So that's what we started doing. When people were coming in, we said, no offense, but we're reevaluating it. We think we have too many right now. They're on every street corner, so.
Is there any value to saying in advance, like,
Yeah.
we're closed right
Happening.
now? Well, instead of people coming in, because, I don't want to waste people's time. And I mean, we're going to, I don't know. Is there anything-
My suggestion would be similar to the liquor license, where can we look at these licenses and see if any of them have been active in the last X number of years? And then if we see that they're not active, then maybe that would be an opportunity for a discussion of, we're not going to renew
Well,
it.
that's easy enough because the building inspector has a list of that. And that's what we did with Tom Dillon. Tom Dillon did that. There was, to be honest with you, there was really only one active car dealer at that time that had sold over 100 cars. I don't want to say that, well, I guess I could. I mean, it was Whitney Brothers at the time, and they had a very busy establishment. And they were in the business of selling cars, I think we're doing over 100 a year. So, but very clearly, there were some that had done one in a year, or, there wasn't really much going on. But I think it's just, all I'm saying is I think it's something for the board to look into. I think, I was shocked to see that we had that many, 30. I didn't realize we had that many. But that's a good point too, Matt, to see what are they actually selling, or how active are their businesses.
If there's some that if they haven't been selling any vehicles in the last several years, then,
Right.
Yeah.
And at the very quick look would be ask the building inspector to go down and write in another column as to how many cars are on their lot right now. Just
Actually,
inspection of that, because you're right, a lot of them are now becoming internet sales. So a lot of them, have one car in the lot, or they just have the license and the car never comes to town. They just buy it and it gets delivered right to the person's address from the internet. So, be curious to see how many of these properties have cars actually on the lot that they're selling. So I'll ask the building inspector to do that. That could be a first step.
Could you see, and also how many cars they've stolen in fiscal 2023?
Yeah, for 23. Yeah.
I think it gives you a good
Okay.
beginning spot of, is this truly a
business that's
business, or is it?
forward. Yeah.
And I the property of the last person that came in down on Main Street, on one hand, it's great to have a business that will go in there and kind of hopefully clean that up for where it's been vacant for so long. I mean, there's a few businesses right on Main Street that have given a complete facelift. It looks phenomenal. So I think, to your point, I agree. I think it's great to have the benefit of improving the aesthetics, but then if you're saturating the market with more and more, then there needs to be a balance. But I agree with you. I think it's certainly warrants discussion. All right, so then class 2, did we? So now is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Next item, class 3 motor vehicle dealer license.
Or someone?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. The next item, garage repair licenses.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Automatic amusement licenses. That's an interesting one, all right.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item, entertainment licenses.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
So.
Aye.
And then lastly, jukebox renewal.
I'll get this one. So moved.
Second. Ed loves a good job.
I like the Juki.
Oh, he keeps that one at the Crystal Cafe.
Steaming.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Very good. We've already touched upon the ARPA recommendations. I would just, if there's anything else that we want to put on there for future, for discussion, for ARPA, I know Chief Lutz had mentioned about a request for some of the equipment. As in, I think it was, I don't want to use improper terminology, but like whether it was the jacket, like their jackets or their coat, there you go. So if
Yeah, there are a couple of departments have reached out asking, if there are any other recommendations will be reviewed. And I said, no, absolutely. The board was just kind of methodically going through it. So we'll definitely review and bring more departments in on January.
Sorry, can we just get like a new, hopefully someday it'll be in the cloud, but just an update of what's been allocated, what's been approved, and what we have remaining.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet Angela has.
I'm sure she does. Yeah, maybe just recirculate it. That would be-
Just for discussion, I know it hasn't been, we haven't even discussed it, but I know Phil came in and said that he had received $250,000 for removal of the
As best.
Yeah.
material down on Sterling Street. And I was just wondering if the board would be willing to consider, and I know that Phil has mentioned that it is environmental, so it is covered under the ARPA, that if in January we find out we're unsuccessful with the rest of the money, I think to get that material out of there and get that site cleaned up and get it to the point that we could, find a viable reason to develop that place and get it on the tax rolls and obviously get a piece of property that's not very attractive. I would hope that the board would consider that.
Yeah, I certainly think that's a great idea. Very good. So then maybe on top of an updated sheet,
Yep,
then we
definitely.
can at least, if we could
Guess that's sent out right away.
Chief Coyne and Chief Lutz, and then also with Sterling Street, that'd be great. The next item, town administrator report.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few items. First, just a reminder to the public about the school committee vacancy, that we're seeking anyone interested to volunteer to serve on the school committee. It'll be appointment between the select board and school committee to serve out until the next town election. Notice was posted in last week's paper. It'll be in this Friday's paper. Deadline is next week for anyone that wanted to submit a letter or resume for interest. After the deadline next Friday, I'll send out an email to all the members with the letters that we've received to that point. So, second, just wanted to note that over 80 town staff members have been participating in a year-long municipal cybersecurity awareness training funded by the Mass Office of Municipal and School Technology, as referenced by the IT consultants today. It's something that they'll be doing to kind of follow up on what we've been doing. So we did that this past year. We'll be signing up for another year next year for 2024 to have employees do this online modules. There were 4 online training sessions with knowledge quizzes that come afterwards. And then there were also quizzes based on what they learned, but then there were phishing emails that were sent out to see who would have opened them or clicked on them, and then get a report to do kind of further training with additional resources. So training consisted of topics about password management, recognizing, reporting suspicious emails, USB device safety, web safe browsing on the web, and other things as well. So it was pretty good. And I think, when it's the unknown and, it's something new, people are all nervous about it. But I think once they started doing it, people really got into it, and we had a pretty decent response with it. So we're going to continue that into 2024 as well. So just wanted to note as well, too, that last week at the Central Mass Municipal Recycling Council annual meeting, that they offered a certificate of recognition to the town of Clinton for congratulating the community on being a Central Mass Center for Hard to Recycle Materials. They call them CHARMs, which is taking some, other than just the basic materials, we take a lot of the other material down at the drop-off center. So we just got recognized and thank the community for doing that. So that was last week. Also, as the Selectwoman Dickout indicated at Mass Development last week, Mr. Duffy had announced the grant, but last week there was a ceremony down in Lynn that myself and the Economic Development Director attended to formally accept the award. So it was nice to be in person and show our appreciation, and hope there's more to come. So, the other is just a quick update on the employee survey, the customer service employee update. The consultant in HR met this week to finalize parameters for the report. There will be recommendations being issued to the board, to the select board, for your next meeting on January 3rd, that you'll have that in your packet. Just the vehicle policy, just update on that. Just wanted to touch base. I know we talked about the meeting about wanting to cover all departments, and it will, with the caveat that it'll be all departments except for union environment employees. If any policy that impacts unions, we'd have to do a bargaining session, impact bargaining with the union. So we're rolling that out to all department heads and all non-union staff. Anybody that has a vehicle, that drives a vehicle, would fall under that policy. The ALS report, I just got an update from the consultants this week. They're finalizing all their data collection. They will be probably later this week and next week reaching out to board members of the Select Board and Finance Committee to do however you prefer, either a phone conference or a Zoom conference, to ask individually all of your opinion as they go to finalize their report. And the hope is to have that for the next board meeting as well, too. So, and the last, just very brief, because again, we have very little information, as I think the board was copied on an email, some of the employee groups concerned about health insurance. We did have a large increase in our consortium rates last year. Several towns in the consortium were concerned about that. So there have been several towns, including Clinton, that have been kind of exploring other potential alternatives. The consortium board is meeting tomorrow. The town treasurer is Clinton's representative. So they'll meet tomorrow and determine if they feel that rates would be stable to go forward as a consortium, or whether people are going to seek alternate routes. So we this all just over the past month really started developing over the past month, but because of that rate increase, we had gone out ourselves just to check the market. So we had been working with the consultant, getting pricing for Clinton, either in other consortiums or on standalone, or Maya, our health, our property insurer, they have a health trust as well too, or the state GIC, whether we feel that's an option. There's a lot, a lot of other potentials, but we want to make sure that the price is right, the plan design is right, based on what copays are and governance as well too. We may, this consortium, we're one of the big communities, so we have a lot of influence in the governance. But at the end of the day, the bigger group you go to, you might get better rates, but you just take what they give you at that point. So, which is fine. But we're okay with that too. I think this consortium has worked well since we had transitioned. We used to be on our own for years and years and years. We did our own self-insured, not self-insured, it was premium based, but it was just Clinton. It was our own pool. And then we went to the consortium. It was a great benefit for us at that time. But coming through COVID, the consortium didn't have a great experience coming through COVID. So we don't want to be, left in a situation where we're double-digit percentage increases every year. So we're looking to see what else is out there, and there'll be more to come on that as well too. So
What is the split right now? What is the split between the town and the employee?
right now, the percentage of town pays 70% and the employee pays 30%. So. Yeah, and by February 15th, we have to notify the consortium whether we're in and out for the rest of for the next fiscal year. So between now and February, we'll have to make some decisions. So once we get some of these quotes back, the board meeting is tomorrow. Once we get quotes back from the providers, we'll then sit down with the unions, talk to the employees about it, and then keep the board up to date as well, because ultimately it's up to the select board to make that decision. So we want to kind of get the sense of the employee unions in order to bring that to the board with the whole package as to recommendations as to what we should do. So the next couple of months, there'll be a lot going on with that as well. So good. Thank you.
Very good. And you did touch upon the grant for the permitting software earlier, which was also, I think, part of your report.
Yeah. Well, that'll be coming up under old and new business, because I'm just asking for the town for the select board to accept the grant. Just to be aware, the grant is certainly all funded by the town for implementation, but there will be, like every software, ongoing maintenance costs as well. So just as long as, and then I think there's a document that the chair would need to sign. So we're just bringing it to the board to accept. That'll be coming.
Very good. All right. So there's no admin business. All the new business, late night closing for New Year's Eve. There was one letter that was received from T's Tavern. What is the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, we haven't had any requests for a number of years. It used to be pretty standard that every New Year's Eve we'd have a whole list of businesses. But the last number of years it seemed to have dropped off. But this year we did get one from one establishment. So it's up to the board if you want to let them give it a try again, I guess. So.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept a request from Liberty Tavern for a late night closing on Sunday, December 31st, to celebrate the New Year's Eve holiday. I think it's at 12:45. Is that what they said?
Yeah, 12:45.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye. Yeah, even talking with the police chief, even they don't seem to have the late nights on Saturdays anymore either. It seems places are closing.
Oh my goodness, I know.
So.
More used car dealerships and bars.
Mary?
Went from one way to the other.
Yeah.
All right, and circling back, Community Compact IT Grant Award.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this here is a award that we received from the Massachusetts Community Compact Cabinet grant for their annual. They do this once a year, annual IT awards, and based upon applying for the Community Compact best practices of the IT assessment, and then funding it with ARPA, then the state used that as a way to continue to build on that platform, and they approved the town to get this software for the permitting and licensing. So I was, happy to see, appreciated their support. It was $106,000. Initially, we just were looking to do the e-permitting, but then talking with the vendor that have had a lot of their grants approved under this program, they also would do licensing, so it would be building inspector, would be fire department, be board of health, town clerk licensing, select board licensing, all that can be all wrapped up. They're all different modules. And so we put in for the whole part, but I wrote in the grant, understanding if we need to have a partial grant, that the permitting was the number one, but that, we could also, for better customer service, use the others. And we got the letter back saying they approved it all. So I think it was great. So we can, in conjunction with the same time frame of the IT upgrades, that we can then start rolling in the software all at the same time, so we can go on dual paths to do both. So it's just great.
That's excellent. Great job. Great job. Very good. Next item, Memorial Day Parade.
Mr. Chair, our Director of Veteran Services will, depending on how this proposal is received, will probably be here for future meetings, but I'm sure some other board members may have had some discussions with Brenny or even Mike Jakonski or even Mike Ward about kind of like the future of the Memorial Day Parade. And I think everyone is somewhat familiar. It's just the institutions in town that used to volunteer to run this parade have been dwindling over the past 15 years or so. And at this point, I think it's a tradition. It's a great day, but I think it's too big of a responsibility for it's essentially like Brenny kind of, Mr. Bailey kind of like runs it, with Mr. Jakonski helps out as well. But it's really, it's mostly Brenny doing all the planning, and I know Mike does help. Mike Jakonski does help out the day of. He's kind of like the master of ceremonies. I still would like him to continue to do that if he wants to, but I think we should. This is just a kind of open preliminary discussion with the board. I think we should start pursuing, like, formalizing this parade a little bit more and allocating town resources to this endeavor, just so that it's more stable over time, and because no one would ever want to see this tradition kind of go away. And quite frankly, I do think it's in jeopardy of going away. I just don't. The volunteer list for this event is just it's not very robust, and I think we need to support it with some formal support. I don't have any. I'm kind of just leaving this as just to kind of plant the seed, and then maybe we can come and revisit it in the new year. I don't know if it's worth in the coming months maybe reaching out to Parks and Rec to see if it's something that they would be interested in helping to run, since they do kind of events similar to that. I think the schools could potentially be a partner in this with some volunteer students. It's kind of a good event. It teaches history, and we could have students that many National Honor Society students have community hours that they have to fulfill anyway, so they could possibly help out the day of the parade, running it or preparing, or reaching out to businesses beforehand, or potential parade participants groups that would may participate in the parade. They could probably help in that aspect of it. But in general, I just think just opening up for discussion just tonight, very briefly, just to see if the board is kind of willing to take, in the next couple months meetings, maybe having this on the agenda a couple more times and trying to discuss and work with the Veterans Office and any other town departments that would be willing to help out, and just to try to take a stab at just formalizing this event with some town resources.
But you're talking strictly voluntary.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You're not going to force people into this.
Well, and to follow up on that, like resources meaning
Well, like
money or employee time?
both.
I just don't think it's right. I mean, under any circumstances to force someone to participate in something. I mean, number one, it's a holiday and, people, aren't necessarily around over a holiday or, I mean, I would be against forcing a town employee or someone that they have to participate in this. I mean, that's.
Can I just ask what was the ideal scenario when it was being successfully managed and run? Like
I
you
think
said,
we-
like a number of
It
volunteers.
was a lot of veterans, older veterans that were still active.
Would volunteer their time.
Like at the time, Harold Vanass was the MC, and I know Mike Jaconski has since taken it over. But it was a group of veterans that would, meet in the office. I mean, they did put a lot of time in it, but it was strictly a voluntary.
Yeah. I'm just kind of wondering too, what did they do? Like reach out to civic groups? Like what are the responsibilities of the volunteer group previously when it was successfully run?
Yeah, they would reach out to, I mean, I was, for many years, I was here when they were doing
Yeah.
it,
But I mean, like day of too. I know it's like, I mean, any event takes time and effort.
But most of those organizations too, they have lost a lot of the people.
Agreed.
It's just,
See, I agree with Ed. I think they're, formalizing at least the process of organizing it. So hypothetically speaking, if it was to fall under the Parks and Recreation per se, at least you have consistencies between who it falls under. Because I think, so I won't get off that tangent, but so I think that, I do think the groups that participate in it, whether, so you have youth softball, you have baseball, you have the band from the middle school and the high school. Ideally, I would think that you formalize it so those, if they would be willing to serve on that board as a volunteer in a particular position, then you can kind of, you have seats on there where they can kind of help on that side of it. And then, I think much like we talked about with Old Home Day, right? I think to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had, I mean, there were definitely town resources helping out with Old Home Day, were there not? I mean, I was under the assumption that there were. I don't think any person was forced to help out, but I think that there was, people asked, would you like to help out? And I think the assumption was, yeah, it kind of falls under their role as a town employee that they wanted to help out. So I mean.
Old Home Day, Eddie, from day one, other than it was the 150th celebration, so the town did put money in for the whole 150th, and that was one of the concepts, the 150th. And so from that money kept going forward and forward, and the generosity of the Board of Selectmen through the Civic Fund, but it was always, always volunteers. Never anybody was ever forced to give their time. It was strictly volunteering.
So the employees that worked on it this year were volunteers.
Yep.
And
Well, I mean, okay. Well, there were a lot of town employees that
Yeah,
volunteered to help out with Old
Yeah.
Home Day. So I don't
Not a
see
lot. I mean,
some, and I'm not asking for a lot for this either. I mean, I'm nervous that I don't know how long Brandy's going to stay on as veterans agent. Somebody else might come along and they might say, no, I don't have to do this Memorial Day parade. And then at that point, it's going to be gone. So I'm afraid if we don't take some steps I don't see why we can't just ask groups within the town to help. I think this is
my husband used to do it when he was an intern at UMass.
yeah.
So I don't know who, is required, but it's just that diligence of reaching out. And then to the point of there aren't that many people who are out on New Year's Eve. A lot of people are going away for that weekend. Are the same groups that were committed to participating, still interested? Are we kind of looking at the evolution of it?
I think just the last few years, right? I think the parade has, I know it's not what it used to be, but I think that participation seemed to be increasing, albeit slightly. But I would make the suggestion that I'd be happy to serve on a subcommittee, or at least meet with the veterans agent on getting some ideas and then presenting them to the board, or at least trying to determine.
I think we have to put some money into it. I mean, I think this is an important, I mean, as far as like some of the events that we do, I mean, Memorial Day, I mean, people that like gave their life for the country. I'm like, I don't understand. Like,
Disagree.
Kind of a big deal.
So why don't we just start with, because right now it is falling under, it's falling on the veterans agent's shoulders at this point, right?
Right.
So why don't we meet with him? We can talk, just kind of come up with a brainstorm on, and then we can attack it that way. And then if there is a point where financial, there's a financial necessity, then we can discuss that as it comes up, right? But I don't disagree with you. But let's.
I didn't see the conversation going this way. So I'm a little like caught off guard. I thought this was.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, I don't think anyone's opposed to it, but it's like when you say, investing resources, we're just trying to understand, like, what does Mr. Bailey or you
What is it
feel
for?
like?
What do we spend on this?
Well, there's $5,000 that's appropriated for it. Some years there's a band that's only every other year, so I don't know like what the closeout money. I can check what the closeout money is, but there's about $5,000 that's appropriated every year. So
We pay,
To pay for that band?
hey man, we don't pay those hurricanes, do we?
that's
Yeah.
I know.
That's over.
That's all. I agree. That's done.
No.
I agree. That's done.
Those kids shouldn't be marching in the wall anyway. I'm doing them a favor.
So sorry.
I want the thing to continue. I just want to know what the pain points are here. Is it the veteran agent doesn't have enough time to corral everybody? Because I mean, it's not exactly apples to apples with Old Home Day, because we have to pay for things for Old Home Day. This seems more like of a coordination, and I agree.
Like time,
It's better than me. I want to know what the problem is,
right?
and if his office can't handle that, like, I mean, we don't have to do fundraising for this.
No, let's meet with the veterans agent, and then we'll come back.
It's
I
really,
just have like a,
you're going to get to participate. And what I'm saying is I don't think it's fair, or I don't think anybody has the right to say you must participate. That's all I'm saying is
I'm not going to speak.
it should be a voluntary thing, That's all I'm saying. I don't want to see it go away either. But
Are you saying make people march or make people help?
either or, I mean,
I got to march every year, so can I?
Hold on. Let's.
Motion to end discussion.
Okay. Very good. All right. Community announcements.
Oh, can I do one more old news? Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just a question, and it throws back to a bygone era, but before the pandemic, the Mass Municipal Association has a conference in Boston in I guess the 19th, 20th January.
right.
Do we still have, I don't know, we used to go to that, and then the pandemic stopped, and I think since there's new members, I don't know if you used to do it back in the day, but
found out.
I think we just got out of habit to do it. The board used to go in and some good workshops and things. I don't know if that's still something that we.
Pandemic, they didn't have it. Then it was virtual, and I think last year was only the first in person since 2020. So it has started back up again, and it is the 19th and 20th of January. The board, the town has always sent board members to attend. It's a great event, and most communities around the state, Commonwealth, do have representation from their board. It's the biggest collection of municipal officials in New England in that yearly event. So anyone's welcome. If you could let us know if you'd like to go and register, and we can get you all signed up.
That's a Friday.
Friday usually starts. I mean, there's a thing Friday morning. The workshops, I think, start Friday afternoon, and
Right. Yeah. There's speaking keynote speakers that are Friday morning, workshops in the afternoon. Saturday morning, there's business meetings, and then Saturday afternoon, there's workshops as well too. So,
do we still have the big hall with all the vendors?
right. It's down at the Heinz Convention Center, and they do have a trade show But there's a lot of good topics, and a lot of times you'll find concurrent workshops, and you'll want to go to 3 different ones, but you can only pick one.
So is it a Friday or Saturday? Like,
You could do either. Yeah, you could do.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do both, or if you can only do one day or do both days, that's yep.
The schedule's online, and yeah, we used to touch base and see if someone was interested in a particular thing.
Yeah, split up.
It does get a little wonky, full disclosure, but instead of 3 people going to the solid waste thing, we could split up or something. It's just if people are interested. I'm trying to figure out if I can get the day off from work, but we used to.
Yeah, no,
it provided some value and just lets you know what other towns are dealing with and what this, it kind of gets you out of this little bubble and that like connecting with other people and seeing, where other people are struggling and what the state's doing to help. And MMA is there to help us, and they're an advocate for us, so they can help us, on things like cannabis policy or like, what the mess is there. Like a couple caught my eye. I'm going to try and get the day off for work, but if anybody else is interested, I just want to touch base.
Most welcome. Yeah, please let us know.
It did provide some value in the past, and I'm sorry we get away from it, but things got messed up.
Yeah. Very good. Any other committee reports? All right, community announcements, Parks and Recreation registration. Visit Clinton Parks and Recreation to sign up for one of their upcoming winter programs. Program details can be viewed at www.clintonrec.com. That's clintonrec.com. And click on the blue button for online registration for more information. So our next meeting will be on Wednesday, October. Wednesday, January 3rd. We will not be meeting for the remainder of 2023. I'd like to wish everybody a healthy and happy holiday, as well as a happy new year.
Here.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. Great night.
Yep.